Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Hey, everybody. I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, just like I said, and you are listening to The Right of the People. It is Friday, November 2nd, 2018. How are all of you doing? As always, I am very humbled and happy to see that you guys have decided to spend some of your time listening to me gabble on. It always amazes me that, well, anybody cares what I have to say. So thank you very much for being here. Speaking of thank you for being here, let me go through the panel. Squib, how are you doing, sir?
I'm all right for a Friday night. How are you?
Not too shabby, despite the fact that I do have to go to work tonight, and I still have these sniffles I haven't been able to kick. Hey, speaking of panel members and showing up, Kingpin, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for the invite. Sorry I was late.
Oh, no problem, man. Come in anytime, leave anytime. There is no schedule here. Not for you guys, anyway. I kind of have to be here. Excuse me. Unless I have something going on. So I'll say it now, and I'll probably say it again later. I will not be broadcasting The Right of the People next week. I will be instead going camping. My brother and I are going on a little early winter, late fall camping trip. And if I have some reception, I might broadcast from my cell phone a little bit, but it won't be a full-blown show. Going to be shooting some videos and whatnot while I'm out there. So there's just the constant quest for content. Go ahead.
Is it going to be a like camping trip, like tents and a sleeping bag and building a fire, or is it kind of like a campground type of family camping trip?
I'm not sure. I've never been to the place. It is a campsite that borders on the Wayne National Forest here in Ohio. I don't know how much actual wild camping type stuff I'm going to be able to get in, as much as I can make it. I'll tell you that, because I do want to do some bushcrafty type projects just for the channel and whatnot. So we'll see how that goes. If I can make it happen, I will. I really don't want to do the sit at a campsite and stuff, because you're always limited on what you can do there, and that and other people are around, and I kind of don't like to camp around other people because usually they're knuckleheads. Like, the whole point to me of camping and being out in the woods is to get away from people. If you are on the YouTube side and you're watching, go ahead and just say something here in the chat so I know you're out there. Speaking of out there, Philo's there, Gun Snob, John Brown Production, Amber Hayes Brandon. Hi from Alabama. Well, hello from Ohio. I don't believe I recognize the name, so welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy it. Over on, let me refresh the Gun Channels side. Speaking of Gun Channels, if you are not a Gun Channels member, go on over to gunchannels.com and sign up. It is free. It is the water cooler of the Internet's Second Amendment community. You will always find someone to talk with and something to talk about over there. You do not have to be a creator. You can be just anybody off the street. You are absolutely welcome. Over on the Gun Channel side, we have G Webbs, the man himself, Muscle Dog Mafia, and Rob Cromwell. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And let's go ahead and drop on my mouse. Getting all discombobulated. Seven Wonders. Hey, Seven Wonders. I just want to publicly say thank you, sir, for becoming a Better Buddy level patron. You are my absolute first one of those. I very much appreciate the support. You have been active and enthusiastic ever since you showed up a week ago, and I think that is absolutely great. If you'll notice, your name is in blue and you have a wrench beside your name. That is because, as part of your perks for the becoming a Better Buddy over on Patreon, you are automatically a moderator in the chat. So Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Yes, sir, you got a wrench. Black Cat says show off. Awesome. All right. Well, the first thing we're going to talk about this week is, for those of you that don't know, a while back, a gentleman here in Ohio got arrested. It was part of a domestic violence. He was arguing with his wife and chucked a cell phone at her. Well, as part of the investigation and until that got all dealt with, the police took possession of his firearms. One of them was an AR-15 pistol that had a collapsible cheek rest on it. One of the officers decided that was not a kosher thing, so he called the ATF, who agreed, yes, that's bad, okay? We're going to go ahead and prosecute. Well, in the last couple days, the case got thrown out, and the ATF lost that prosecution. This is a piece from The Truth About Guns by Dan Zimmerman, dated November 1st, 2018. It is titled, ATF Suffers Rare Court Loss in Ohio Unregistered Short-Barreled Rifle Prosecution. There's been much sturm and drang in the online gun community over the last couple of days following the ATF's prosecution of an Ohio man who equipped an AR pistol with a Maxim Defense collapsible cheek rest. The prevalent take is that the ATF has unilaterally changed their interpretation of the law, altered their earlier rulings on AR pistol extensions, and are about to come for our pistol braces. Nothing could be further from the truth. Most of the panic and overreaction is traceable to a Prince Law post on the case, but that post doesn't mention some key mistakes the prosecution and the ATF made and buries the lead, only noting at the end that, unlike over 95% of such prosecutions, the defendant was found not guilty and the ATF got their ass handed to them. The Truth About Guns has talked with a number of people directly involved in the case in the last couple of days, and here's what happened. Toledo police responded to a domestic disturbance call in March at the home of Kelland and Christina Wright. Mr. Wright, a Marine veteran, allegedly threw a cell phone at his wife and was arrested. As a part of an arrest for a domestic violence complaint, police confiscated all firearms in the home, including an AR-15 pistol equipped with the Maxim cheek rest. When the gun was subsequently examined by the ATF, they deemed it an unregistered short-barreled rifle. That determination was based on the fact that, according to the ATF's measurements, the Maxim cheek rest, which had been altered with the addition of a rubber cane tip on the end, resulted in a length of pull that's greater than the 13.5-inch limit the ATF says is the maximum for any similar AR pistol accessory. Wright had apparently added the cane tip to keep the gun upright when stored in his safe. Prosecutors argued that that was an illegal alteration to the gun. As a result, Wright was charged with possession of an unregistered short-barreled rifle, a felony. There were a couple of problems with the case against Wright, however. First, the ATF has never issued an official public opinion letter stating that AR pistols with such accessories, cheek rests, pistol braces, etc., must have a length of pull no more than 13.5 inches to avoid being considered an SBR. The ATF had communicated that fact to various manufacturers in private opinion letters concerning their specific products over the years, and some of those companies have chosen to make those letters public. But nothing has ever been communicated to the general gun buying public by the agency. As a result, the defense argued that Wright had no reasonable way of knowing that the 13.5-inch length of pull limit. There's a Supreme Court precedent in Staples versus United States that found a gun owner has to know that his firearm has characteristics that bring it under NFA regulation to be guilty of a crime. To be guilty of a crime. The second problem had to do with how the ATF measured Wright's gun. Here's a standard method for measuring a long gun's length of pull, and what it shows is that the distance is measured from the trigger to the rearmost point on the stock along a line that's parallel to the axis of the barrel. That's important. So it has to be measured straight from the trigger to the rearmost point on the stock along the same plane as the barrel. What the ATF did, however, was somewhat shady, to say the least. They measured it on an angle. They measured it on an angle from the trigger to the tip of the cane, not on a straight line parallel to the bore. The defense pointed out that measuring that way isn't standard and was done to produce the longest possible length of pole. In this case, measuring on an angle produced a length of pole of 13.75 inches, or 0.25 inches more than the supposed limit. The defense's expert witness measured the gun the standard way, and what do you know? Wright's gun, even with the cane tip attached, has a length of pole of 13.5 inches when measured properly. So, to sum it up, not only was Wright unaware of the double secret 13.5 inch length of pole limit, but his gun didn't even exceed it, which was, by the way, the basis for the prosecution. So the jury found him not guilty in less than an hour. The Prince Law Post also mentioned that the ATF asked for and was granted an order sealing a number of documents used in the case. As a part of their defense, Wright's attorneys used a selection of those opinion letters that the ATF had issued to manufacturers in connection with specific products under consideration. The ATF argued against releasing those for use by the defense in the trial, but lost that fight. The ATF then, reasonably enough, sought to have those letters sealed and not included in the public record of the trial because they contained potentially sensitive competitive information concerning the companies involved, not because they were trying to hide any internal ATF decision-making from the public. Those documents were never intended for public disclosure unless the companies themselves decided to release them. The other good news for Mr. Wright, besides the not guilty verdict, is that while the entire ordeal was no doubt extremely stressful, his defense didn't cost him a thing. Wright was represented by a court-appointed attorney and came away not owing a dime. Boy, that's a surprise that this gentleman got off then if he's represented by a court-appointed. That usually doesn't go well. Anyway, the cherry on top is that the ATF and U.S. attorney were publicly embarrassed for prosecuting a frivolous case, one with a couple of gaping legal holes that never should have seen the inside of a courtroom. Long story short, an innocent man is free, and the ATF hasn't done an about-face on cheek rests, pistol braces, or any other AR accessories they previously said are okay. If you own an SB tactical stabilizing brace, no one is claiming it's no longer legal. If you like your pistol brace, you can keep your pistol brace. Of course, we've kind of heard that before, haven't we? So there you go. ATF gins up a frivolous prosecution against somebody and gets their ass handed to them in court. Rightfully so. Armament Naxer says, yes, it's another waste of taxpayers' money, and I agree it is. Let's go ahead and greet those that have showed up since I started. Let's see. We got Clint Torres. Hello, hello. Good to you. Grim90. Hello. Guitar Man Pete, even though you... Yeah, I would hide that one too. Good catch on the mods part. Calaveras 32 Special, the Tactical Pickle. Armament and Axes, carry my revolver. Hello, hello, hello. So there you have it, guys. What do you think? Is this something that we need to worry about? Is the ATF coming for our pistol braces, or do we not have to quite worry about that just yet?
I don't see this as a pistol brace issue. You said he used a cane tip. Okay, yeah. So more or less, he had a muzzle cap on his firearm when it was stored in his safe. And that muzzle cap is what made it exceed the length, even though they measured it from the wrong location.
Well,
that was their basis for saying it exceeded the length.
He didn't have it on the muzzle. He had it on the rear of the extendable cheek rest.
Well, that's just okay. When I think of a cane tip, I'm thinking of a small. It's almost like a cap, kind of like it would slip over.
That's exactly what it is. See, the item that he had on the back of his rifle is not a stabilizing brace that extends down and looks like a stock. This is in line with the same plane as the buffer tube. It's just a cheek rest that goes over the buffer tube, and you can move it to where you want it to have the length of pull.
So he just had pretty much a raw buffer tube at the very end, and used this there but you said it was just when it was in storage, though, or was it when he was shooting it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he took the cane tip off when he was shooting it, or if it was just while it was in the safe to keep so it would stand up.
So what if somebody just put some duct tape at the end of one of these things to do the same thing, or whatever? I mean, I don't see how it's no matter where they measure it from. I just don't see that as a thing. I mean, let's just say if they want to be this anal, what if he had put a gun sock over it? Seriously, and he didn't have it stretched tight. And they measured from the outside of the gun sock to the outside of the gun sock, and it's a rifle length gun sock, right? And they go, well, yeah, but this is because it's on it right now, but it's in storage. Well, it doesn't matter. You added it on there, therefore you increase the overall length, and now it's because that's how anal they're being with this. It sounds like.
Well, the ATF has historically had a very not very much of a sense of humor when it comes to anything, actually. They are very adamant that you not modify these pistol braces in any way. So, gluing some foam on the back of it, yeah, you don't want to do that. Taking that strap off even, you don't want to do that. Anything that makes it in any condition other than as designed, as sold, and as intended by the manufacturer means that you have altered it, and they will hammer you if given an opportunity to do so. Let's see. What are they saying out in the chat? Black Cat says we should write a couple hundred letters to the ATM asking if they're really, really sure about this. Of course, I think he meant ATF. Yes, it was text. Talk to text. Yeah, trust me, man. Talk to text gets me all the time. To the ATF to ask what they're really, really sure about this. Clint Torres.
You need to add one more really to that. Really, really, really sure.
Yeah. Clint Torres says, of course, they want it sealed. What else would a bureaucracy that's not answerable to the people and can make regulations backed by the penalty of law want? Yeah, there you go. David, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, so like if you had your standard wooden stock shotgun and you decided to cut half of the stock off, like the butt stock, is that illegal?
It depends on if it makes it fall under the 26-inch
overall length, right?
Minimum distance, minimum overall length.
There's an overall length and there's a barrel length, and you've got to fit within both criteria. So you
have to have at least an overall length of 26 inches with any stocks or anything fully extended, and the barrel for a shotgun has to be at least 18 inches long.
Yeah, I'd say if you're not sure, find out if that shotgun has a youth model, because that's going to have a cut down stock from the factory.
Yeah.
So, but that or just get a tape measure, but be careful where you measure it from. The ATF might.
Yeah.
So
could you picture a guy from the ATF come in with this long case, looks like a Plano gun case, right? And he opens it up, and it's this biggest set of calipers you've ever seen, right? He just opens it up. It's like really gigantic, like comedically gigantic, and they put it over the top of this thing.
And given that it's the ATF calipers, the measurements would be wrong anyway, just so they could they have correct measurements on one side, flip it over, and you've got the ATF measurements on the other.
So would we classify the ATF as not gun friendly, or are they gun friendly? Like, I mean, are they going to support the Second Amendment, or are they just going to do whatever the bureaucrats tell them to do?
I heard an interview on a show once from a guy who used to work in the ATF, and he said that there's a lot of gun guys in there, but with all the things the ATF does, I'm really having a hard time believing that. So I don't know what to make of it.
I think it depends. The ATF is a bureaucracy, and the primary purpose of a bureaucracy is to ensure the continued employment of the bureaucrats. With that being said, I'm pretty sure they're going to do whatever their political masters tell them to do. By and large, I'm sure there are individual agents that are absolutely pro Second Amendment. There may even be the individual bureaucrat involved in the ATF that's pro Second Amendment. But I think that overall, as a class, they're going to do what the boss tells them to do.
Think about this:
employed.
how many police officers are not gun guys? How many people join the military and they're not gun guys? I mean, it's just a government job. They've got a rating system like everybody else, and they probably have a pension like a lot of these government jobs. And there's a lot of bureaucracy, like you were saying, and it's probably not a job requirement to know the difference, between centerfire and rimfire, let alone know how to measure a gun.
Yep. We've seen this with the ATFs back and forth on, all kinds of things. They change their opinion on, yeah, you can shoulder it. No, you can't shoulder it. Yeah, you can shoulder it. Bump stocks. They change their opinions on anything, anytime. It just depends on who's giving the opinion.
That's one thing. They've made it where if you've got an AR pistol, at any given time, the wind can change, and now suddenly you're a criminal, depending on how you hold it or how you bought it, or they don't grandfather in anything. They don't have any. I don't know. There's just. I mean, I've fired an AR pistol, and I really didn't care for it. I actually like the AK pistol better, but they've made it where if you have one, it's almost a liability. I'm not saying, well, nobody should have one. No, go ahead and get one, but just understand that you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring with that thing. And it's almost like a backdoor form of gun restriction, because they'll make it so it's such a pain in the butt to own. You just don't want to own it.
That's the way I feel with short-barreled rifles, and that's why I own an AR pistol, is that with an SBR, there's way too many hoops to jump through. You can't take it across state lines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's why, that's kind of the way I feel about the SBR, and it's why I chose to get a pistol. I like mine. I think it's a great, fun little gun to shoot, and it's really handy. Particularly if I'm taking a trip, I'll take it apart, stick it in the suitcase, and there it is. Assuming that I'm driving. I've never flown, so with driving it isn't a problem. Hey, Clover jumped in the YouTube side. How you doing, sir? We better watch out. They're gonna give me a strike now since he's out there. That was crazy, man. Horrible what they did to you. It still makes me mad, as I'm sure it does you.
Did he get never enough ammoed?
Oh, you don't know? Yeah, oh yeah, they clovered him bad. They gave him a strike, said he was doing some illegal content or scamming or something on one of his previous after hours. The show where he constantly tells us that we need to follow YouTube's policies and all that.
Don't take this the wrong way, Clover, but you're the last guy I would think would be doing something against the rules, because everybody goes to you for the answers. So, man,
yeah, it was pretty it's pretty egregious.
But, Budget, irony can be pretty ironic sometimes.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Jesse B Outdoors channel got a strike, I think, last week. And from the way I understand it, he had a youth model of some type of shotgun, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And I think, I'm not 100% sure, this is just from what I was gleaning when I, talking back and forth to him real quick, was the youth is what got him the strike.
The fact that youth was involved in there somewhere?
I would imagine that my guess would be it was, promoting children into violence or whatever, but
So should he have called it a ute?
Yeah, he probably would have gotten away with that. Yeah, but then somebody would have claimed he was being racist against Native Americans, and that would have been
for that.
And he's just like
David,
Clover.
ATF. Hey, thanks for showing up. I watch your channel. Love your stuff, man. Glad to see you showing up over here in my little corner of the world.
David, does Jesse have a backup channel he can go to, or?
Yeah, he's got a channel called Jesse B Outdoors 2. And right now he's gonna, post his playlists to that. So if anything happens to the original channel, he's got the backup there. He doesn't do live streams or anything. He does a lot of product reviews and, stuff like that. And like I said, he's kind of like Clover. You wouldn't expect anybody in the world to get in trouble on YouTube. You wouldn't expect him to get in trouble.
Speaking of, since this happened to Clover, I've decided that I'm going to split off a second channel. Not so much a backup channel where I'm going to back up all my content and whatnot, but I'm splitting off this show, as a matter of fact, The Right of the People, into its own channel. Still going to have the same format, still going to be the same everything. It's just going to be on a different channel. That's going to be called The Right of the People. We'll be doing live streams, this exact show, every same time, same content, just on its own channel. I feel that given that if they're going to do that to Clover with some of the things that I say over here, that they just might want to give me a whack me in the head with a hatchet. So I figure it's prudent to split the political stuff off into a second channel. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not going to be for another 2 or 3 weeks yet. I still have to gather together all my old Right of the People content and get it published over there. But once I get all that stuff over there and taken off of this channel, then I'm going to start migrating to just going live for the Right of the People over there. So just stay tuned with that. Clover says YouTube policy is very clear. If you have one channel that is live restricted and you go live on another channel, it is grounds for them to kill your whole account. Oh, wow. And General Relativity says just use a different email address so they don't wipe out both. Yeah, that's what I did. So hopefully that will be enough to insulate it. Not that I ever plan to get a strike, because I try to be good.
No, but
I was gonna say I try to keep this going by CloverTech rules, but look how that worked out for him.
YouTube's just like the ATF. They don't know if they're coming or going.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, see, I think YouTube knows exactly where they're coming and going. They're not arbitrarily doing stuff like that. I get it that there's an algorithm set up that is going to catch certain things, but for the most part, I think anybody who's going to get nailed, especially if they got a bigger channel, was nailed on purpose.
Wow, really, Clover? Clover just put out there that it doesn't even have to be your account. If you get caught on another live stream panel, you're toast. Wow. That is draconian right there. That is
I think it also depends on the kind of strike that you get as well, because one of the news channels that I watch got a copyright strike, and they were able to go to their second channel and still do all their live streams. But I don't know. I'm brand new to all this kind of stuff, and I haven't gotten any strikes yet.
wow. That's crazy.
Here's the thing. I've seen what my kids are watching at night. Excuse me. They'll be playing on their video game system, and they'll have their laptop or their tablet or their phone next to it, and they're watching YouTube videos of people playing video games. I don't get it. But I mean, some people like to watch other people shoot too, so whatever. Anyhow, I'm listening to some of the things that these idiots are saying while they're playing these video games. And I'm like, these guys can be on, and my kids listen to this crap, and I've talked to my kids about it too, and they just think it's funny and entertaining. They don't, whatever. Anyhow, they're allowed to do this because it's video games, but if we talk about Second Amendment rights or firearms, that's not cool. And I think YouTube, it would be nice if they just had a unilateral everything across the board. I understand that then somebody could say, well, then you could let the terrorists in, or you could let the pedophiles in, or whatever. But I mean, I also don't think, though, that they should be prevented from doing what they want to do because they're a private entity. I mean, if it was a government-run thing, like there was a free YouTube-esque site, excuse me, that the government was running for people to put content, I don't think they should be able to limit what we say. But since it's a private company, I understand they have the right. If I own my own company, I wouldn't want the government coming in. But it's just some of the stuff that's out there that's okay. But then our stuff, it's I don't know.
I don't know that I exactly sign up to that whole private company stuff either when it comes to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I get it, the cake baker can decide to make the cake if he wants to or not, but what YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, all these social media accounts they advertise themselves as, a place for the public square, the place where people can go and share their thoughts and ideas and da 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 da. So I don't know about going 100% with the private company angle.
I mean, it's kind of like TV. There are channels that you can get for free. There's stuff that comes with basic cable, and then there's the premium channels that you pay for, or then the other services like Netflix and Amazon TV and all that other stuff. If you don't want it, don't pay for it. And if it's free and you don't like it, don't watch it. Turn it off. Same thing with the radio. If you've got like the 24-hour news radio and they've got maybe a couple shows where they got people commentating and the stuff that they're saying you don't like, don't listen to it. It's just, and I think should be the same thing with YouTube. I don't know every single thing my kids are watching every single second of every day, but I do check in on them and I do talk to them. And they also know that I do this YouTube crap too. They don't even care, but it's like knowing what kind of TV shows your kids are watching. Back before there was YouTube, your parents would tell you, hey, it's bedtime, go to bed. And then that's when the movies would come on later at night. Or, I mean, you weren't supposed to be able to get into a rated R movie without your parents being there, although I think pretty much every theater let us in anyhow. But the whole point is, if you don't want to hear it, or you don't want your kids to hear it or see it or whatever, then turn it off, don't watch it, and police what your kids do. Wow. So, but I don't think we're doing anything here inciting any violence or doing anything dangerous or threatening or...
All right. I think we're going to go ahead and move on. I kind of am on a hard time deadline of 8 o'clock tonight. So, let's go ahead and push this on. The next thing I want to talk about is, the fact that, and here's something that's going to surprise everybody. I know politicians push schemes that they know won't work. I know that's a surprise. It's, something that is going to blow the minds of everyone, but it's true. This is a piece from Breitbart by A.W.R. Hawkins from November 1st. Says, John Tester admits gun control won't stop school shootings, pushes it anyway. During the past summer, Senator John Tester, Democrat Montana, pushed gun control in response to school shootings and admitted the specific controls he pushed would not stop such shootings. Tester pushed the gun control on June 18, 2018 interview published by KBUL News Talk 970 AM. The host asked Tester what he thought could be done about school shootings, and Tester responded by pushing universal background checks and new gun controls regarding straw purchases. When Tester began listing his gun controls, he admitted, it's not going to stop it, but it's going to help. Tester is wrong. Not only will universal background checks not stop school shootings, they will not even help either. Why? Because nearly every high-profile public shooter, whether it's at a school, a workplace, a church, etc., since 2007 has acquired their guns via background checks. Those who did not either stole their guns, such as was the case at Sandy Hook Elementary, or they used someone else's gun illegally, as the attacker did at Santa Fe High School on May 18, 2018. And whereas we already have background checks, have had them since 1998, and they are not stopping determined attackers, so too we have laws against straw purchases. The first question on the ATF background check form 4473 deals with straw purchases and makes the buyer affirm that he is indeed buying the gun for himself. The only school shooting that involved straw purchases was Columbine, April 20th, 1999. So Tester's straw purchase gun control would not have stopped, much less hindered, any school shooting in the 21st century. Yet he's pushing it anyway. So, surprise, surprise, surprise.
Look, people say that they want their kids safe, and people say that a lot of people say that we need gun control. We need, even though they don't understand guns, or they don't understand the laws, or they don't even understand what gun control is. They know catchphrase words and stuff like that. Let me ask you this question. If you thought that your kids were in that much danger of getting shot up at school, why would you send them to school the day after one of these mass murders? Because the likelihood of it happening is still astronomical. The news hypes it up. If it was really that bad. Now, that's not to say these aren't tragedies. These are tragedies. We need to do stuff. And some people on our side have proposed some things to make the schools safer, because trying to take away the guns won't stop it. And there are other ways to do things than other than a gun. We all have seen the stuff with the vehicles. If you don't go into the school with a gun, you can drive a truck right through the damn door, and then go in there and use a handheld weapon, and you know, I mean, and the list just goes on and on. Bombs and poison gas and fire, and it's awful to think of. And the only reason we can even consider some of this stuff is because it's happened. It's happened. I mean, here in Michigan, back in the 40s, some school administrator got fired, and he chained the doors to the school shut and tried to blow up the school. I mean, this is back before there was mass media and a lot of the gun control laws and all this other stuff. Didn't even use a gun. I think he ended up in a shootout at a farm later on with law enforcement or something like that. But the whole point is, we live in a dangerous world. The gun is there for people like us to protect ourselves, to protect our family, to protect our friends, protect innocent bystanders. And when they talk about this gun control stuff, people just, I don't know, they get on board with it and they don't know what it is. But like I said, if you were that concerned, why did you send your kids to school the next day?
Well, you know, you were right when you hit on the fact that we live in a dangerous world. And, you know, that's proven because even in heavily gun-controlled areas, you know, there's still crime. There's still violence. As a matter of fact, usually there's more than in places where there is less heavily gun-controlled. This piece in Breitbart from November 1st by AWR Hawkins. Suspect in scream mask on loose after shooting two in gun-controlled New York City. New York 4 reports that the shooting occurred just before 2 a.m. A 17-year-old girl and a 24-year-old man were shot and wounded. Both were transported to the hospital in critical condition. ABC 6 reports that the suspect allegedly walked up to a group of people and started shooting. Witnesses said the suspect was wearing a ghost face, which is the long-faced, sunken-eyed haunt adopted by several characters of the cult horror series Scream. NYC has universal background checks, gun registration requirements, a high-capacity magazine ban, an assault weapons ban, and a very onerous process for acquiring a permit to carry a gun for self-defense. But wait, there's more, because this other piece in Breitbart has the headline of 43 shot, 5 fatally over Halloween weekend in Rahm Emanuel's Chicago. The Chicago Sun-Times reported that beginning with Friday, each day in the weekend became more violent. For example, 3 wounded and 1 killed Friday night, 11 wounded and 1 killed on Saturday, and 25 shot, 3 fatally on Sunday. The 5 individuals killed were 16-year-old John Pena, 23-year-old Kenwan D. Scott, 30-year-old Deshaun Jacobs, 20-year-old Datavius Beeks, and an unidentified 33-year-old male. All were fatally shot while standing on a sidewalk, walking, or inside a vehicle. The 43 shot over Halloween weekend represents a marked increase in gun crime compared to the Halloween weekend of 2017 when 30 were shot. Boy, isn't that sad when, last year 30 were shot. This year, we got 48. It just keeps climbing and climbing.
And how much you want to bet that they don't find out who did it?
Oh, no. Because nobody saw nothing.
That's what I mean. 4th, you're not going to stop the violence in the world and taking away the guns from the people who want to protect themselves and protect their family, or the people that could be protecting our kids at school. It'd be like if we took the guns away from the cops. So they're like the Bobbies over in England. I mean, I know people keep saying having more guns isn't the answer, but actually it's probably the sanest thing that anybody's ever suggested, because you're just not going to stop this sort of thing. We've got to learn that we have to live with it. So what can we do if it happens to us? What can we do to protect our families? Not this, oh, no, this useless legislation will stop stuff. I mean, you said it yourself, gun control Chicago. You can't even have a gun there, right?
Yeah, not legally. It's awful doggone hard to.
And same thing in New York City.
Yep. Awful hard.
One of my favorite videos from over in Merry Old England is there's a guy standing in the middle of this like town square or whatever, and he's got a knife, and there's 6 bobbies surrounding him. And every time one comes close, he points the knife at him and like walks toward him, and they run away. So one guy with a knife is holding off 6 police officers.
Stop, or I'll say stop again.
Right, that's my favorite.
Gun control doesn't work, flat out. And just as the what recently happened in the synagogue in Pittsburgh, any place where there isn't firearms are likely to get shot in a mass shooting. I mean, it's simple. Every mass shooting that's happened has been in a gun-free zone. There's a reason for that. Quote unquote gun-free, because obviously they weren't gun-free, because laws and signs work.
Their goal with gun control is the failure. And I can point to the most recent example of, government shenanigans with Obamacare. They knew they designed it to fail, so then they could just completely take over the medical industry in the United States.
Because what we tried didn't work, so now but it will work if we only try more.
That's exactly right. If they're going to throw all these legislation and bans and laws and rules, and they're going to say, look, it's not working, we just need to get rid of the guns altogether. Their goal is for gun control to fail. And maybe my tinfoil hat's on too tight.
Gun control has never been about safety. It's always been about control.
Yep.
That as proof of that, anytime anyone puts forth a suggestion that may work, hi David, how you doing? Anytime anyone puts forth a suggestion that might work, they mock it. Case in point, here's another piece in Breitbart. David Hogg mocks President Trump for wanting armed security in places of worship. Gun control activist David Hogg mocks President Trump's call for armed security in places of worship the day after a man stormed a security-free Pittsburgh synagogue and killed 11 congregants. Trump reacted to the attack on the Tree of Life synagogue by lamenting the absence of armed security. He said, if they had protection inside, the result would have been far better. This is a dispute that will always exist, I suspect, but if they had protection inside the synagogue, maybe it could have been a very different situation. He noted that the lack of security allowed the attacker to do things, unfortunately, that he shouldn't have been able to do. Hogg chose not to deal head-on with Trump's assertion that the ability for someone to shoot back could have completely altered the outcome of the attack. Rather, he mocked the idea of a good guy with a gun altogether, suggesting it is just part of a larger effort to sell more guns. Let's see. Hogg had tweeted, when they say the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, what they're trying to do is sell you 2 guns. Ironically, Hogg gained national attention as a gun control proponent when his school, gun-free Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, was attacked on February 14, 2018. The attacker struck Building 12 on campus, and there was no one inside the building who could shoot back. Moreover, the one armed deputy outside the building, former Broward County Deputy Scott Peterson, stood outside the building rather than entering to confront the attacker.
The same thing happened at Columbine. Do you remember the footage of the SWAT team cowering behind the fire engine? When I saw that on TV, I was yelling at the TV, "Get in there! Get in there!"
Well, back then that was protocol. That was how they did it. You know, they had Columbine changed many things in the.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. As somebody on that team, I'd be on the radio going, "F you, sir," and I'd be going in the building.
Yeah,
there is a certain time where you disobey orders.
Me too.
But I mean, you know, you can say, "Don't armchair quarterback," blah blah, whatever.
Well, thankfully, not everybody feels the same way that Hogwash does. Another piece that says Jewish Americans flock to firearms training in wake of synagogue attack. This is from October 31st. Jewish Americans are flocking to firearms training in the wake of the October 27th attack on the Tree of Life synagogue that killed 11 people. For example, Haaretz reports that the Sharev Gedon Israel Tactical Defense Academy near Scranton, Pennsylvania, is witnessing the highest demand for training it has ever seen. Jonathan Stern, a veteran officer of the Israeli Defense Forces and director of the academy, reminds his Scranton, Pennsylvania classes, "The fact is, we're at war. We want Jews everywhere to be armed." Stern indicates that hundreds of people interested in firearms training contacted him during the 3 days after the Pittsburgh attack. He observed that all but 3 or 4 of them were Jewish. And while there are some members of the Jewish community pushing back against the idea of using guns to keep synagogues safe, Stern notes to wait for law enforcement to arrive simply is not the answer. Zev Gutman was afraid of guns until Saturday's attack, but now he chooses to be armed. He said, "Everybody has to find a way to react. This is my way." Brooklyn Borough President Eric L. Abrams reacted to the Pittsburgh attack by making clear he will be armed when he goes to a synagogue. He said, "It's not popular, but it's right," he added. "We have to live in the real universe that we're in." New York State Assemblyman Don Hickend said, "I applaud and agree with Eric Adams, and I am registering immediately for a gun license. And I will encourage other Jews to do so to protect their institutions and synagogues. If we are targets, we need to be prepared." Buddy, it's not just you, it's everybody. There's another article that says, "Jewish gun advocate, learn to shoot or get out of the way of those who do." Doris Wise, the founder of Jews Can Shoot, an offshoot of the former Children of Jewish Holocaust Survivors organization, told Breitbart News on Monday that the best response to Saturday's synagogue shooting is for Jews to arm themselves. "My reaction was horror and sadness. Horror was the first thing. I don't think this is going to pass that quickly," she said, speaking from her home in Arizona. "I got very angry when I saw the candlelight and the vigils and all of that. I mean, it's good, and people need a chance to heal, but the only thing that's going to stop these people is a gun, is shooting them back." She rejected the idea that President Donald Trump bore any blame for the attack, adding that she believed the country's divisions began in earnest during the Obama presidency. She added that her own family's experience in the Holocaust had taught her the importance of firearms ownership as a protection against tyranny. "I go back to the same thing I've always said. We've been persecuted since the time of the Holocaust. I definitely believe that had we been armed, there would not have been a Holocaust, or the Holocaust would have been very much minimized. The solution," Wise said, "is gun ownership and firearms training, which our organization provides to members of the Jewish community. The only thing we can do is arm ourselves. If we don't want to be armed, don't undo the Second Amendment. Guard places like synagogues because bad people have been around from the time man and woman appeared on earth. It is our good fortune to live in a country that has a Second Amendment, and I think we need to honor that by learning to shoot or getting out of the way of those who do." I can't say it better.
Yep. It's interesting to see how they're flocking towards the guns instead of against. Though some of them are saying, "Oh no, we don't need guns," and apparently they didn't listen to their grandparents that were, in some of those camps. What was the first thing that the socialist, nationalist Nazis did when they took over? They took away everyone's guns. Yeah. Listen to the Jews that are saying we don't need guns. Yeah, go ahead. Take all the guns away. See what happens.
We talked about this on Lock and Load on Monday night because Hawaii Volcano Squad is Jewish. And he said it's a cultural thing. He says what he's seen, that they don't even want armed police outside of the synagogues and stuff because just the sight of a gun bothers a bunch of these left-wing Jewish people in his community that just they don't want guns around. It doesn't even matter that it's people in the congregation that are carrying concealed or something. They don't even want an armed police presence there. It's just some sort of a thing. It's just
they'd rather be victims, is what you're saying.
That's not the way he said it. He said it's just they just don't. He said that. Don't get him wrong. There's people in the community that are pro-gun, like him. His father's pro-gun, stuff like that. But he says it's just something about it. They just don't want.
Well,
they don't want to be around them.
They have the luxury of living in a relatively safe environment here in this country. I think that if they were to go to Israel and spend some time there and talk to some Jews who actually know the way the world works, they might have a different opinion.
But in Israel, they have gun control. Big time.
Yes, but they also have a lot of security.
Yeah, they do. They have a lot of security, and they have a fantastic military. But it's kind of ironic, though, that they have so much gun control over there for the average citizen.
Yeah.
Again, they didn't learn from their grandparents, but again.
But at least they've made up for it with actually providing security for those that they're not letting have their own.
Yeah, that is one thing Amit has said. He's a member of Gun Channels. He hasn't been around in a while, but he lives in Israel. He did mention that whenever there's security forces over there, they're mostly armed with either Uzis or some form of rifle to protect and whatnot. Because even over there, it's not as safe as it is here in the United States, if you can call the United States safe.
Yeah. That's why I said relatively.
Yeah. But, he also said that, they in Israel, they shoot first and ask questions later.
Well, they kind of have to. They're surrounded by enemies.
It's primarily because of the factor of they've had so many people that have tried to blow themselves and the people around them up.
Yeah.
Suicide bombers.
Which you have. Go ahead, Night Strike.
It's just a clear indication. Listen, if people are going to attack religions and whatnot, if they're crazy enough to attack another religion or their place of worship, their church, their synagogue, their mosque, whatever, people are crazy enough to do that. You have to get real and realize you're going to need some form of security, no matter what. I mean, in other parts of the world, the religions have security. Okay, take the Vatican for example. Do you think you can just walk all the way into the Vatican with a gun? No, but the Vatican has security. They've got security out the ass, and that's Italy.
Those Swiss guys might have something to say about it.
Those Swiss guys are armed with actual guns, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those outfits you see on TV or in pictures, those are just for show. When they're doing their job, they're probably wearing something similar to what the Secret Service wears.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
the fact is that no matter what Hogwash might want to say, no matter what NPR might want to say, no matter what the Giffords group might want to say, the best chance you have of stopping a bad guy with a gun is to have a good guy with a gun present. That is borne out time and time again. As we move to the end of the show, we go into the Self Defense Shoutouts segment, which for those of you who don't know, the Self Defense Shoutouts segment is not me glorifying in the death of a human being, whether he's a bad guy or not. It is me glorifying in the continued life and liberty of someone who was unjustly set upon and had the means, method, and opportunity to defend themselves and protect their life and liberty. Case in point, masked gunman allegedly burst into McDonald's, gets shot dead by armed father. A masked gunman allegedly burst into a Birmingham, Alabama McDonald's Saturday night, only to be shot dead by a father who was dining with his 2 teenage sons. Alabama.com reports that the incident occurred around 10:45 p.m. when the restaurant manager unlocked the door to let the father and his sons exit the lobby. The masked gunman allegedly burst inside as the door was open and opened fire. The father was able to pull his handgun and return fire, fatally wounding the masked suspect. A woman who was waiting for her food at the drive-thru recalled hearing 8 or 9 shots ring out. She said those shots were followed by the sound of 2 more. The suspect was transported to a hospital and pronounced dead. The father and one of his sons were wounded in the exchange of gunfire, but both are expected to survive. And yet again, intrusion suspect shot after ignoring mother who warned, "I have a gun." A home intrusion suspect was hospitalized after allegedly ignoring a mother who said, "I have a gun, I will shoot you." WSPA reports that the mother, Ashley Jones, was at her Anderson County, South Carolina home with her 3 sleeping children, when 2 suspects allegedly began beating on her front door. Jones said there was 1 male suspect and 1 female. She said the male tried to convince her to open the door, but Jones responded by dialing 911, then grabbing her gun. The man allegedly moved to the back of the house to try to make entry, only to return to the front door after finding the back door locked. Once he made it back to the front, Jones said he allegedly kicked the door in and tried walking towards the inside. That's when she shot him. The suspect was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Jones said she did what any mother would do to protect her children. The state quoted Jones as saying, "I would have killed him if I had to."
And here's the thing, in South Carolina, and even if it's Anderson County, she was well within her rights because of castle doctrine.
Yep.
She did not, she was already in her house. She could not retreat any further. So, at that point, he kicked in the door. I'm sorry, but if anybody kicks in my door, they're getting shot.
Yeah, they're going to spring some leaks. It's just how
Are they getting shot or are they just getting shot at?
Oh.
Well,
accurate.
When I use the 12 gauge with buckshot, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be that far away.
I'm so glad that you did that McDonald's story. I've heard that a couple times in the past day or two, and that's an absolute perfect example of the good guy with a gun. Who knows what kind of carnage the bad guy could have done if the good guy wasn't there.
Yep. Could you see him returning fire going, "Do you want fries with that?"
And I'd bet every penny that I own that the 8 shots that the customer heard from the drive-thru was the bad guy, and then the double tap was the good guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We always joke about on TV, the bad guys can't hit anybody, and the cop, pulls out his gun and from 5,000 yards away, 1 shot kills the bad guy. All the TV stuff we make fun of.
Yeah.
But that's real. That's actually kind of real. 90% of the time, that's just a number, so don't hold me to that. I'm just being, talking here. But a bunch of time, the good guy who's returning fire is putting minimum rounds out of their firearm and usually right on target. Where the bad guy, they don't care where the bullets go. That's why little kids get shot in Baltimore all the time while they're sitting there, sitting on their stoop or, trying to ride their bicycle around the block or something like that.
That's right.
Well, that's the thing with the bad guys. They think they're going to get whatever they're owed because they have a gun, but they don't know how to use it worth shit. And excuse the language, of course, but and because of that, they have nothing left to return fire with if they get attacked. So, quite honestly, with people like that think they can commit any crime with a gun, they need to realize that in some parts of the country, people will shoot back at you.
That's right. And on that note, it's time to turn off the lights and roll up the sidewalks, folks. Want to thank everybody for coming by. Let me go ahead and go through my panel. See if you guys have anything you want to plug, any last words you want to leave us with. Kingpin, what do you got, sir?
Go check out guntube.org. Go check out gunchannels.com. And remember, every second matters.
Absolutely right. Night Strike, anything you want to say, sir? I already know what you want to say. Go ahead. Hold on one second. If you're wearing headphones, turn your volume down.
Yes, please do. Shut up, you infringed!
Go ahead.
There we go. Did you get that?
What's that?
Shall not be infringed?
Outstanding.
Yeah. Hold on. Shut up, be infringed! There we go.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Squib, anything you want to say, sir?
Yeah, see everybody tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Travis P11 channel on Caliber Corner.
Yeah, probably live from the McDonald's Wi-Fi.
Live from the McDonald's Wi-Fi.
I just got a text message from him. And he said that probably I'll have to do Caliber Corner from McDonald's because they're the only one in town that has internet right now. Because apparently Spectrum is down in his whole city.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so he's like, the McDonald's is the only place that has Wi-Fi right now because they run off of DSL.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and once again, I would like to publicly thank Seven Wonders for being my first Better Buddy patron over on Patreon. Thank you for your support. Very glad to see the enthusiasm and involvement you've shown ever since you first started coming to the chat a whole week ago. So outstanding. Thank you very much once again, sir. Everybody else, remember, midterm elections are 4 days away. It is more important now than it ever has been to get the vote out. Talk to all of your friends. Get them, especially if they are pro-gun, and get them out. Get them to the polls. Get them the vote. It is more critical now than ever that the conservative side retains, the mostly pro-gun side retains control of the House and the Senate, so that Supreme Court justices can continue to be appointed by our current president. You know, who knows how long Ginsburg is going to hold on. If we can secure a 6-3 majority for the Supreme Court, then our gun rights are probably safe for the next generation at least. So get out there, get to voting. As a reminder, I will not be doing... Well, hey, thank you, Armament and Axes, the $2 super chat. Anyhow, as a reminder, I will not be doing the Right of the People next week. I will be camping. And also coming up is a move to the Right of the People having its own YouTube channel instead of being on Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. For those who missed it, I am planning to split it off into its own based up just so that you know, my main channel doesn't get clovered over my political leanings. So I'm going to make it its own stuff and put
hashtag not my fault
stuff over there. So there you go. As always, people, let your Congress critters know what you want. Tell them what you think. Hold their feet to the fire. Smoke signals, heliograph, semaphore, telephone, telegraph, anything that you need to do. Even a carrier pigeon, hold their feet to the fire and never, ever, ever give up the fight.